All right, welcome to our very first episode of The Marketers Next Door, where we're going to cover topics around marketing for small to mid-sized businesses that drive real results. I'm John, and this is my colleague, Jen.
Hey, John, how's it
And
going?
today's first, good. I'm stoked to get this started finally. It's only been like three years in the making.
Yeah.
So for today's episode, the very first episode, we're just going to talk about how Jen got into marketing and how I got into marketing, just so that you guys can understand our background a little bit more and, give some credibility about what we're going to be talking about for future episodes. So do you want to go first, Jen, or do you want me to?
Ladies usually are supposed to go first. But you know what? In this case, I think I'll have you kind of kick it off because my background and my story bleed into BMG and kind of how we became who we are today. So I think it'll be a good segue to kind of end the episode. So why don't you go for it?
Awesome. Cool. So my background's kind of all over the place. People call me like a digital renaissance man. Like I've just done everything digital you can think of. I've been playing on computers since I was in the sixth grade. My dad got a Macintosh and
since the floppy disk.
Yeah, everything. The old green screens and everything. And, I was playing like StarCraft and all these different games on computer. And so I naturally just got into using computers as a kid. Then my dad, he used to sell Apple products when it first kind of came out. And he would always get his hands on the latest version of Adobe. And so my dad and my brother are both photographers. So we'd constantly be shooting content, and we'd bring it into all these Adobe products. Back then it was Photoshop C6 or something like that, maybe C4 or something like that. But I was always using, all these things as a kid. And so I just naturally kind of just as an adult wanted to get back into digital because, whether I was filming myself skating or me and my brother were paintballing all the time, we'd film those, we'd make them into small videos or any pictures that we took from those things. We'd chop them up and we'd use them for our MySpace profiles or whatever,
MySpace.
But so I was always kind of into just using a computer and the stack that I had available at the time. So, but as I graduated college and technology got more advanced and, I started to get interested in work, obviously that kind of just piqued it, that just pushed me into more design related stuff like web design, graphic design, and then eventually marketing. So that's kind of my childhood synopsis. But after college, I actually graduated with a history degree, which didn't really help me in marketing at all, except for the fact that history is actually focused on American history. We talked a lot about patterns in history, right?
Yeah, it repeats itself.
History repeats itself all the time, right?
Totally.
So, and looking back at the 40s and 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, we had to look at what were the current topics then? What were the current trends then? And they're not that far different from what we have today. Sure, everything's shinier and faster, but it's all kind of the same thing. Humanity in terms of marketing hasn't evolved crazy. The tools we have to market have, but the core principles are exactly the same, right? There's a problem for a customer. You have to create the solution. You have to be able to put it in front of the person, and then you have to be able to advertise the benefits, right? So people want to buy. It's always been that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just now we have so many different ways to do the same thing, right? So history didn't really help me too much, other than just understanding how human behavior works. So then after that, I got hired by a small agency that just did SEO, and I was the web designer and blog writer for that company. And they were the smallest of small you can think of. And to be honest, I don't think any of their services ever worked. I don't know if any of their clients' pages ranked, even top 10. But that was my foot in the door. I learned some stuff there. I made 25 websites when I was there.
Wow.
I talked to various different business owners, from a plumber to a floor and decor business to eyeglass company that had multiple locations. So tons of a range of stuff, all small business stuff because they were working with such a small agency. But I really started to understand how websites became such a vital role in small
Yeah.
businesses. Or any
So it
business,
sounds
but
like
such a
that
big role.
job kind of helped you decide which path you wanted to take, design or writing, right? In the marketing
Totally,
space.
yeah. I did not go the writing path. I can't believe I can even say that I wrote blogs. My work is out there somewhere. It's crazy. Yeah, there was one that I wrote a ton of content for, and they were like a hotel restoration business, and I can't believe I wrote as many blogs as I did, but I did. So after that, yeah, like Jen said, I knew that I wanted to get more design focused, right, and like be a creative thinker and design focused, right. So I actually left that place just because it was just so stagnant and other issues. And so I actually started to freelance, and I started to do graphic design with this local print shop by my apartment. And I would get paid like $20 a design, and I'd be doing different things from like logos to like team like softball shirts, all these like weird things. And I was like, this isn't what I want to do either. Like I don't want to just like have to sell myself and like make crappy money doing it. And like, it just didn't work. But I was still doing something I wanted to do, which was on the computer, digital, graphic related, design related. And so I was still like, okay, what can I do now? Let's get into freelancing. Let's try to make some more websites, right? I love doing that. So I pitched myself as John Michael Coe, and it was web and wood. I had an Etsy store where I was making furniture, and then I was doing web design for other clients. And so I got a couple clients doing that, which was really cool because it was just me. There was no one else there I was working with other than just working with the business owner. So I really got to understand like A to Z what they need, right? Maybe it was just a website, maybe it was a logo, maybe it was both, maybe it was a brand, maybe it was all three. So I got some good experience there. And then I still felt like unfulfilled because I never became an integrated part of their business, right? I was still just the web guy, right? I was still just the graphic designer in their eyes because you're a freelancer. You're not an agency, you're not an entity. So they're just kind of like, yeah, cool. It worked. And I knew there was so much more that I could do, right? I just knew my value wasn't being utilized.
Yeah.
So I said, screw it. I'm going to start applying for places. And I applied to a bunch of places. And luckily I got picked up from a pretty successful e-commerce business. And I was hired to be their lead front-end developer. And that's where my life changed for the better. I was given a lot of responsibility. We were a really small team when I first came out. I think we were under 30. And by the time I left, we had 120 people. So we scaled, 4x by the time I left. And so I went from, the designer, the web developer, to having, I think we had 12 developers under me. And I hired all of them. And then I was like managing the design team and the marketing team at one point. It just got kind of crazy. So I experienced rapid growth there, and I really found what I love to do. And it is 100% creative thinking through design and anything digital, and coming up with strategies that actually work, right? So as my role there, I wasn't the web designer. I actually hired 3 UX designers to do that for me. But I pushed them so hard to think outside the box. What we didn't want to do was just create another e-commerce store that looked exactly like everyone else's Shopify site that, had nothing unique to the user experience on the site. So I was constantly pushing them, think different, make it better, make the product pages crazy. Let's go crazy above the fold, and let's go even crazier below the fold, right? And we were using things like Hotjar and Optimizely and all these different tools that really kind of pushed everyone outside of their comfort zones, but ultimately made everyone a better creative thinker, right? And so that's where I was like, oh, this is so much fun. I love this. Like all these tools that we can use to really elevate our skills as designers and developers. And so we did really well. So I got a little bit more responsibilities, and that's kind of where I took on even more. I had the dev team behind me. I had the UX team behind me. I had the graphic design team behind me. And then things turned. We had a CMO. We hired a CMO that, for lack of he just didn't know what he was doing. And this is where things went sour. And when I said I took on some marketing responsibilities, it's because the CMO didn't understand marketing. He didn't understand how it works, how to position yourself, how to attribute things, how to make sure you're not spending more than you're making. It was like really basic stuff, right?
Marketing 101.
In my Marketing 101. And it blew my mind that this guy had so much responsibility, and he would make these really rash decisions that would eventually ended up costing us millions of dollars. And I'm not going to name drop, and I don't need to go too much into it, but ultimately what happened is I learned a lot about what not to do, right? I was so stoked. I was on this really good growth plan, and I was just excited to see what we could do as a team. And then this guy just kind of ripped everything apart and just kind of stole it from all of us. And before we knew it, the company was massively in debt. So I go from like leading these teams to creating all these cool solutions to, hey, we're in debt, we got to lay off everybody. Mm-hmm. And that really hurt because I hired so many people. I was always the speaker at all of our hands-on company hands-ons. And, I go from having like this massive responsibility of like growing the company to this massive responsibility of firing everybody. And that really, really sucked because, you work there for 2 years and you become really good friends with everybody. And it's a small, scrappy, company, and everyone's like so tightly knit. And then, hey, because one person made a really bad decision, I have to fire you. So most of them went well, but like at the end of the day, it's like it breaks your heart because you're totally destroying their livelihood, right?
Well, so you worked really hard to get there too.
Yeah, my wife will. Thank the Lord that she still stayed with me. I was working, way more than I should have. I had 21-hour days sometimes, but it was fun, right? Because you have a problem, you go, I love what I was doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I vowed from that day forward that I would really understand marketing, and I would never let that happen again to anything that I get my hands involved in. Fortunately, the company ended up collapsing, and I was getting married the next month, and so that was interesting.
Did you vow not to work 21-hour days anymore after your wedding?
Pretty much. I mean, I knew that I didn't want to do that anymore. That's just crazy, and it took a toll on your health, and like your relationship.
Yeah.
So eventually my wife is really good friends with someone who Jen's going to mention. And he said, hey, I was in between jobs, and he goes, hey, my boss kind of, he needs some help. He might need some consultation, or I don't know, but you want to talk to him? I said, sure, why not? Like, I have no problem talking to people and seeing if there's something there. So right before my wedding, I talked to Matt, the owner, and then I met Jen. And I went off and got married, and then I opened up my phone and it said, hey, we want to hire you. And now I've been with Matt and Jen and BMG for the past 3 years. So that's kind of my story. I know it's all over the place, but it's really, it's out of this, passion of just, staying on my computer, thinking creatively, never being content. I'm a big advocate of infinite learning and just never saying that there's never a solution, which is don't say never. But
never say
never say never. The good old magic school bus, right?
Yep.
So that's
you're gonna date us. Be careful here.
I know.
Yeah, floppy disks and the magic school bus.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, that's me. So that kind of leads into Jen, and so go ahead and kick it off.
Yeah. So I really didn't know that I wanted to get into marketing until I got into marketing. But growing up, I always had a creative background. I was always working on art projects. My grandmother was an artist. My mom was an artist. So art was always part of my life, whether it was painting, drawing, collages, anything like that. So I decided to go to school for art and design. I went to the University of Illinois, home of the Fighting Illini. give a little shout out there. And I started majoring in art and design, and I was like, this is fun. This is creative. Back then it was really hands-on, like drawing, sketching, doing like the statues, still life artwork. And that was fun. It wasn't what I could see myself doing in the future. It wasn't somewhere I was like, this is my career path, and I'm so excited about it. The digital kind of world, in terms of art, marketing, advertising, and all like you were saying, the Adobe programs, like that was starting to emerge a lot more. I took a video editing course throughout some of these like requirements we had to do. And that was probably the most exciting class I took. And I was like, okay, this digital thing is really cool. Yeah. So then I started taking more classes that were geared towards taking art and making it digitized and what you can do with that. And this class was around advertisements, creating advertisements for magazines. So then I started looking into advertising and marketing and was like, you know what, this is a great outlet to be creative in a digital way. So I quickly kind of switched my major over to advertising, which was really fun. It was like a really small school of people. So we were really close. We worked on all of our projects together. Fortunately, I was able to keep my art and design credits and just wrap that into a minor. So I didn't waste, those 2 years making drawings of the garden out behind the building. Yeah, that literally was a project. So I ended up majoring in advertising with a minor in communications and art and design. While I was in school, I did some internships for I did one for one of the buildings on campus. So I managed the social media for them to try to also generate interest in new tenants and stuff like that. It was a private housing. And then I also found an internship for a startup Italian shoe company. And so I worked with a team of 3 girls. Yeah. I can't even remember how I found it, to be honest. It was a team of 3 girls, and we were helping this woman start her brand. So working on the logos, the styling, the branding of her shoe line, which I believe was called Alessandra Teresi, if I remember correctly.
Go look it up, everybody.
Alexandra or Alessandra Teresi. I'm not 100% sure which one it was. But through that is when, had to create a professional Facebook account and, do some outreach to influencers in the Chicago area to try to get people to have her on to talk about her shoe brand. So it was kind of that startup world, fashion, which I loved, and then branding, marketing, new things to me that I found tons of interest in. So after college, I moved out to California and would never change that decision for anything. It's beautiful here. Totally. I found a marketing associate job on Craigslist. And it was
of all places.
Of all places. It was with Matt at Solar Art, who's one of BMG's clients right now. While I was looking for this job, I had this awful sales job where I was going literally door to door to businesses selling office supplies. So when people ask me about sales, my eyes roll to the back of my head and I'm like, oh my God, get me away from this. Because I've done so much grassroots sales in my life. I did newspaper door-to-door sales when I was a teenager, awful sales. Did pretty well, but it's so hard on your mental health that it's just not something I was interested in. There's money there, but not something I was interested in. So while I was in that role, I was looking for a marketing job, which is how I found Matt's posting on Craigslist. And I went to meet him and interview, and he thought my name was fake because my last name is Solar and the company is Solar Art. He's like, did this girl change her name for this job? He told me
that's
that
a red
after.
flag if you did.
No, he told me that after the fact, that he was kind of wondering that. So it was fun. But so I started working with Matt 8 years ago, just about, and started just as a general marketing associate, working on the website with a web team, working on the social media, trying to grow the following, just create a presence and everything like that. So with that came the companies and the clients' need for graphics. So Solar Art does flat glass window film installations, and you can do that with graphics and prints and cutouts and whatnot. So this was kind of emerging in their industry. And that's where, you know, my art background kind of came in handy.
Totally.
So Matt was like, let's start a graphics department. So now I'm managing, you know, our marketing efforts, and I'm managing the graphics department, which was just booming. Like, there was such a need for that. I found myself, you know, a little too involved in that, and was like, okay, need to like take a step back. This isn't what I want to be doing right now. You know, had a conversation, you know, really want to focus on marketing and Solar Art's brand and growing our reach and getting leads and stuff like that for the business. So, I don't know what year it was, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, really made that switch to focus on marketing. We got a couple of different partners to help with different areas in marketing. You know, one person can't do it all. So I was working with someone for the SEO, I was working with someone for the PPC, the blog writing, and then kind of managing all of those different projects through HubSpot, which is kind of how BMG got started in working with HubSpot. But that's when, you know, inbound marketing was emerging and all of that was new, especially in the window film industry, right? Solar Art being a window film company, focusing on inbound marketing was just way beyond anyone else within the industry. So
still is kind of.
Yeah, it really is. So as we're kind of ramping up our marketing efforts, we're like, okay, we need content, right? We need to focus on how we're going to get content. So we hired Drew, who is a videographer that we found, and he was great, gave us some really great content. And then, like John said, he introduced us to John, who came in to kind of talk to us about how we can scale our marketing efforts and really generate a lot of revenue for the company through marketing. We were blown away by John's ideas and presence. So we offered him the job. So we're slowly building this team of marketers at Solar Art, right? We had myself, Drew, now we have John. So then we hired Alyssa, who's our copywriter today. So we hired Alyssa to write all of our content. And we're all focused on Solar Art, getting all these projects done, creating crazy differences in their marketing. You can check that out on our website.
Oh my gosh. I wish you could see the before versus after. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We did so good that Matt was like, well, so shit, I want to use you guys for all my businesses. So Matt is an entrepreneur and he's got multiple businesses that he loves and runs, and was like, you know what? I'm going to take my team of marketers that I've built and I'm going to create my own marketing company. So now he's also got a marketing company under his belt. So
he says it's the smartest decision he's ever made.
Yeah.
That's what he still says.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I agree with that right now.
Yeah, totally.
So it's been like a crazy roller coaster of, you know, how I got into the marketing space, working with Matt. The changes over the years have been crazy. A lot of people, like, you know, don't hold jobs that long, right? That's an insane amount of time.
8 years is nuts, especially nowadays.
But I haven't had the same job for 8 years, like not even close. True. It changes so much. It changes so much, you know, from like just general like grassroots marketing to developing the graphics department and running that team, and then going back to like inbound marketing is emerging, creating the team. It's been really exciting. But yeah, so here we are today with BMG. I think I was just looking kind of when this all started was like June 2018, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about my background and how I got here today. But yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's been really exciting. I've learned so much. Like I said, I didn't major in marketing. You didn't major in marketing, but you learn, like it's ever evolving, which is exciting, right? So you learn online, totally. You learn through certifications, you learn through doing, you learn through research, and you try, you fail or don't, but you learn from what you've done and then you improve upon it and you get better and better and better. So that's what's so exciting. Right there. Yeah, exactly. You don't do one design, right? You do you start off and then you have 9, 10 iterations of that design. Sometimes it's the first one. Sometimes it's the last. You never know.
Right. And then whichever one works, you do 9 more iterations on it.
Yep.
Constantly evolving. That's awesome. I love it. Our stories it's funny because like you said, you didn't maybe necessarily want to get into marketing. I don't think I necessarily wanted to get into marketing, but nowadays I wouldn't trade it for anything, It's such an interesting role inside of businesses nowadays because I think modern day businesses, they put a lot of pressure on the marketing team to be in charge of revenue growth, right?
Yeah.
You got the sales team who's always an integral part. Obviously, they are the drivers of the business for the most part. But now, there's this really big pressure on marketing to really increase growth significantly, right? So that puts us in a really interesting position because you go from maybe not wanting to get into marketing to saying, oh, I like this. This is kind of interesting, to being a very, very valuable part of any business. Which is why we are creating this podcast because, a lot of small businesses are at that point where maybe they aren't, focusing on marketing. Maybe they aren't a modern day business and they're finally going, oh shit, I think I need to do this. Like my pen and paper, just working off repeat and referral is not going to work. I need to get new clients,
Yeah.
So, so through all that, we're super, super excited to launch this video series because we've learned a lot. Like Jen said, our boss is an entrepreneur. He owns multiple businesses. So we've learned a ton through that. We're constantly learning through all those businesses. There's in such different categories. Some range from very small to a mid-sized business. So we're being exposed to all these different challenges on a daily basis, which just makes us better marketers, makes us better problem solvers, makes us better sales support. The list goes on and on. So you can expect from us to, like I said, cover a range of topics from small to mid-sized businesses that drive real results. And we're also going to have guests on the show, that are either in marketing or in sales positions or in leadership positions to kind of talk about those topics with us. So super excited to kick this off. Like I said, it's been way too long to do this. So super excited. Can't wait to come back and do another episode. So hopefully we'll see you guys around. Hopefully you guys find this interesting and valuable, and we'll keep chugging away.
Yeah, let us know your feedback. Super interested. Any questions you guys have, we'll definitely answer them on our upcoming episodes. Looking forward to sharing some more insights with you guys.
Awesome. Last thing is you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on Facebook, right, Jen? Make sure
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah.
And we'll probably put them on our website as well. But those places you can definitely find the content if you like one place better than the other. So anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.